Yo, what's up, everybody? You're watching Knicks Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green. The New York Knicks just defeated the Detroit Pistons 118 to 112. And we're going to talk about the game. We'll go over some stats and answer some questions from subscribers. But first, I just want to talk about the biggest story right now that is surrounding the New York Knicks. Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype put out an article on the New York Knicks and Immanuel Quickley just yesterday, and he said this: the New York Knicks have a glut of guards, and rival teams are monitoring whether Immanuel Quickley will become available on the trade market after both sides failed to agree to a contract extension before the season. Quickley was offered around $18 million per year in contract extension talks, and however, even though league sources told Hoops Hype that, however, Quickley was looking to get closer to $25 million annually. Quote, I think Quickley might be New York's best trade asset besides Julius, Jalen Brunson, an NBA executive told Hoops Hype. And with Immanuel Quickley expected to be, or will be, a restricted free agent this summer, teams are going to start calling. And I'll say this: I was very disappointed in the way that he played in the game against the Detroit Pistons. Look, I'm not saying he needs to be perfect every single night, but you can't pay a guy $25 million if he's going to do stuff like this. He was awful, and that happens. He's a scoring guard, but I'm starting to become a little bit more worried with Immanuel Quickley. He has had a great year. He's having his best year of his career. But my question is, can he be a successful player in the playoffs? When you watch Immanuel Quickley going forward, I want you to keep your eye out on this. He can never get to his spot without using a pick, and never is probably a stretch. I'm sure he's done it. But to create separation and to beat people off the dribble, he has to have a screen. And I think that was on full display last year in the playoffs when he was absolutely horrible against the Cleveland Cavaliers as well as the Miami Heat. And if you're going to pay a guard $25 million, I don't know if he can come off the bench, because you already got $25 million or $20 million Josh Hart coming off the bench. You got $10, $11, $12 million Dante DiVincenzo coming off the bench. And then Immanuel Quickley, $25 million coming off the bench. And like Michael Scotto said, an executive told Hoops Hype that Immanuel Quickley is their most attractive trade asset outside of Jalen Brunson. And if I can get a superstar here, I would give up Immanuel Quickley. And I know people would hate that, but I just would. Am I going out and trading him for nothing? Absolutely. I'm actually, in fact, only moving him for a superstar. But I'm not sure that the Knicks will ever be an elite team in this league if their number 2 ball handler is Immanuel Quickley. As much as I love him, as much as I appreciate his growth and how good of a basketball player he is on both ends, he's not the second best shot creator and shot taker on a championship team. I just don't believe that. What do you think? Will the Knicks end up trading Immanuel Quickley? I want you all to predict it for me down in the comment section. Will Immanuel Quickley be traded by the Knicks before the trade deadline? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I'll just say this: if the Knicks would have signed Immanuel Quickley to that contract extension, they wouldn't have been able to trade him for 6 months, which means they wouldn't have been able to trade him until the offseason. Food for thought. I think they didn't sign to that extension, so maybe they could just trade him. We'll get to questions coming up from subscribers in a second, but first, I got to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Factor. When you go to factormeals.com/KnicksChat50 and use the promo code KnicksChat50, you're going to get 50% off your Factor order. And if you live a busy lifestyle like me, and you're going to be running all over with a whole bunch of errands during the holiday season, you need to get hooked up with Factor, which is America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service that can help you fuel up fast for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals that are delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tracking all your holiday to-dos. Head to factormeals.com/KnicksChat50 and use code KnicksChat50 to get 50% off. That's code KnicksChat50 at factormeals.com/KnicksChat50 to get 50% off. The food is awesome. It tastes great, and it helps me just be a little bit less stressful in my life because I don't have to worry about where my next meal is coming from. I don't have to go to the grocery store, and I don't have to prep the food. Factor's got me covered. Factormeals.com/KnicksChat50. Mr. Special Situation says, how do we think DiVincenzo is progressing? I've been a fan of Dante DiVincenzo, to be honest with you. And I think his ability, I'll say this. Let me just look up his season stats just so I'm not speaking out of my ass right here. I mean, the guy's averaging 8 points per game and shooting 39% from three. Only 39.8% from the field, but a large majority of his shots do come from three. He has been absolutely dreadful around the rim. That's been a drawback. But the reason that I believe that Dante DiVincenzo is having more success than Quentin Grimes this year is because he's able to be more multiple. Quentin Grimes at this point is simply just a catch-and-shoot guy, and when he's attacked very hard on a closeout, he can put the ball on the deck and get to the cup. Whereas Dante DiVincenzo is a much better passer than Quentin Grimes. In my opinion, he's a better long-range catch-and-shoot shooter. And sometimes when you can stretch out your range 3 or 4 feet beyond the three-point line, it forces the defense to extend, which opens up the lane for guys like Brunson, Randle, and Barrett. Last point. Dante DiVincenzo's ability to be a playmaker off the bounce, whereas he can at least run a pick and roll and make a nice pass. We saw him throw that lob to Mitchell Robinson against the Pistons. Quentin Grimes can't do anything off the dribble right now, and he could do that last year. I am the president of the Quentin Grimes fan club. I feel like he's taking a step back. He's lacking confidence, clearly. I'm not saying he's a bust. I'm not giving up on him, but he has to play better. He has to do his part. Can't always be potential with the guy. I like DiVincenzo a little bit more as a fit player on this roster. Michael Vasquez says, I've heard a few people say Randle is a top 5 power forward. Do we agree with this? No, but like second team All-NBA last year. I think everyone would agree. When he's good, he is damn good. When he's bad, he's bad. He's the most frustrating player in NBA history. I mean, the guy's got 2 All-Star appearances, 2 All-NBA selections as a Knick. I just don't know if he's a winning player. Love what he did against the Pistons. He should do that against the Pistons. There's nobody in Detroit that can stay in front of Randle. He bullied his way to a 30-point, almost triple-double. Love the effort on defense occasionally. I just still think that if the Knicks want to be a championship contender, I don't know if Randle's a part of this team. If you hate me for saying that, I don't give a shit. As always, just want to say I appreciate you guys. And if you're new to the channel, you should subscribe. Subscribe to Knicks Now by Chat Sports. We're your #1 live watch party place on YouTube for Knicks games. We put out free videos every single day, and I think we're pretty cool. And no one on Knicks YouTube has a widow's peak like this. So subscribe. Let's ride. My man Jay Liv. Will the Knicks get another shot at PG if the Clippers continue to struggle? What would you include if you're Rose? I know the Knicks just won, and I sound like an ass up here trying to trade everybody. I'm still trading R.J. Barrett for Paul George, I think. I still think I am. Because I think that if you add Paul George to this team, if he's healthy, which he has been, and this is one of the best years of Paul George's career, I think that makes you a contender in the Eastern Conference. The Knicks visited that trade in the offseason. They wanted Grimes, they wanted Barrett, and they wanted multiple picks. Sound like the thing that broke that trade up was the contract extension. I would do it. I would. I think Paul George is a perfect fit for this team. He can take the ball out of the hands of Brunson, can create for others, and he can guard the #1 opposing threat every single night, and he's a 40% three-point shooter. Just my take. I'll continue to stand by it. My man OG, the realist in the city, says, I don't see the Knicks getting a superstar soon. I want a player that really moves the needle, but what player do you think we can get that takes us to the – what player do I think they can get? I don't have an answer for you, and that's what's so frustrating. And that's kind of the loophole. Loophole's probably not the right word. That's kind of the problem with the way the Knicks built this team. They signed a whole bunch of guys to mid-level contracts. They stockpiled draft picks. That way they could trade for a star. But you can't trade for a star if a star's not being traded. Look, we've gone through every name on this channel. I don't know who's going to be available. Maybe if the Clippers, like Jay Liv talked about, continue to struggle. Maybe a guy like Kawhi or maybe a guy like Paul George becomes available. I don't see that happening with the Clippers moving into a new arena next year and probably wanting to keep some star power there. I don't know. And it's upsetting because we've been saying for what, 24 months at this point, the Knicks are going to make a trade? I'll tell you this much. You got 2 first-round picks this year. You don't have 2 roster spots. That means there is a ticking time bomb on your assets. You don't want to let them go to waste. It'll be an interesting 6 months for this New York Knicks team. And we're going to break it down every day on this channel. So subscribe, turn the notifications on, and if you haven't yet, follow me on the Twitter or the X at @MarshallGreen_. Appreciate you. Let's go Knicks.